I locked the kitchen door and walked away from 20 hungry relatives on Christmas Day, but what they didn't know was I'd been planning this moment for months, and I had evidence that would destroy them all. Let me tell you something, family. Have you ever felt like you were invisible in your own home? Like you were just the help, not the heart? That's exactly how I felt every single day for the past 3 years. My name is Marjorie, and I'm 62 years old. I've been a widow for 8 years, raising my only son Derek with love and sacrifice. But somewhere along the way, I became the family's personal chef, maid, and ATM machine. And on Christmas morning, I decided I'd had enough. The day started like every other holiday. Kendra, my daughter-in-law, had made it crystal clear the night before. Marjorie, you'll handle Christmas dinner for everyone. We're expecting 20 people, and I want everything perfect. No please. No thank you. Just orders like I was her employee. But here's what she didn't know. I'd been secretly recording our conversations for months. Every cruel word, every dismissive comment, every time they treated me like I was nothing. I had it all on tape. That morning, I stood in my kitchen staring at the mountain of groceries, pots, and pans. 20 people expecting a feast, and I was supposed to cook it all alone while everyone else enjoyed themselves. But instead of starting the turkey, I did something I'd never done before. I wrote a note. Merry Christmas. You'll find dinner in the freezer. Heat and serve yourselves. Then I locked the kitchen door, grabbed my coat, and walked out of my own house. Now, let me ask you this. What would you have done? Would you have stayed and cooked for people who treated you like dirt? Or would you have walked away like I did? I didn't go far. I drove to a nearby hotel and checked in under a name they'd never recognize. Then I sat in that quiet room and waited for the chaos to begin. The phone calls started around noon. Derek first, his voice frantic. Mama, where are you? Everyone's here, and there's no food. I let it go to voicemail. Then Kendra called, her voice sharp with anger. Marjorie, you're embarrassing us. Get back here now. I deleted that message without listening to the rest. But the call that really got me was from Latoya, Kendra's sister. She left a voicemail that made my blood boil. Marjorie, you're being selfish. This is Christmas. You're ruining everything for everyone. Selfish? After everything I'd done for them? After all the money I'd given? All the meals I'd cooked? All the times I'd swallowed my pride to keep the peace? That's when I played back one of my secret recordings. It was from 2 weeks ago when Kendra and Latoya thought I was upstairs sleeping. But I was listening from the kitchen and my phone was recording everything. You know, Kendra said, we just need to keep her cooking until we get the house. Once we have the deed, we can put her in a nursing home. Exactly, Latoya replied. She's getting too old to take care of herself anyway. It's for her own good. I sat there in that hotel room, listening to their voices, and I realized something. They'd been planning this for months. They weren't just using me for free labor. They were plotting to take everything I had. But what they didn't know was I had my own plans. And I had evidence that would expose every single lie they'd ever told. The relatives arrived expecting a feast, but instead they found chaos. 20 people standing around an empty kitchen, wondering where the food was. Derek frantically calling my phone, Kendra trying to explain that I'd gotten confused and wandered off. But I wasn't confused. I was finally thinking clearly for the first time in years. I had recordings of every conversation, every betrayal, every cruel word. I had bank statements showing how they'd been draining my accounts. I had legal documents proving they'd been trying to get power of attorney over me. And I had something else they didn't know about. A life insurance policy worth $500,000 that they thought I didn't know existed. But this was just the beginning of what I had planned. Because what I was about to do would change everything forever. Comment below. Would you have walked away like I did? Or would you have stayed and cooked for people who treated you like servants? When Derek finally reached me, he said something that made me realize I'd made the right decision, and that's when I played him the recording. It was 3 p.m. when my phone rang for the 15th time. I'd been sitting in that hotel room, watching the snow fall outside my window, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. But when I heard Derek's voice, I knew I hadn't. Mama, please answer. I'm worried about you. Where are you? There was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Not anger, not frustration. Fear. Real, genuine fear. And that's when I knew they'd discovered what I'd left behind. I picked up the phone. Derek, I said calmly.
Mama.
Thank God. Are you okay? Where are you? Everyone's been calling, asking where you are. Kendra's furious, and Latoya's telling everyone you've lost your mind. I almost laughed. Lost my mind? After everything they'd put me through? Derek, I said, I want you to listen to something. I'm going to play you a recording. Mama, this isn't the time for games. We need you to come home. The family is here, and there's no food. You're embarrassing us. Embarrassing you? I felt my blood start to boil. Derek, listen to this. I played him the recording from 2 weeks ago. The one where Kendra and Latoya discussed putting me in a nursing home once they got the house. I listened to his breathing change as he heard their voices. Mama, where did you get that? Where do you think? I recorded it myself. Just like I've been recording every conversation for the past 6 months. There was silence on the other end. Then Derek's voice came back, softer now. Mama, you don't understand. They didn't mean it like that. They were just worried about you. Worried about me? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Derek, they want to put me in a nursing home and take my house. How is that worrying about me? Mama, you're being paranoid. No one wants to hurt you. We all love you. That's when I played him another recording. This one was from last month, when Kendra was talking to her friend on the phone. Marjorie's getting too expensive to keep around, Kendra's voice said clearly. She's costing us money every month. We need to figure out how to get her out of the house without looking like the bad guys. Derek was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Mama, I didn't know. Didn't know what, Derek? That your wife has been plotting against me? That she's been draining my bank accounts? That she's been stealing my jewelry? Mama, that's not true. Kendra wouldn't do that. I played him another recording. This one was from last week, when I'd caught Kendra in my bedroom, going through my jewelry box. These pearls are worth at least 5,000, Kendra's voice said. And this diamond ring? Probably 10. If we sell them, we could pay off the credit cards. Derek, I said, your wife has been stealing from me, and you've been letting her. There was another long silence. Then Derek's voice came back, but it was different now. Harder. Mama, you're making this up. You're confused. You need to come home so we can take care of you. Take care of me?
I felt something inside me snap.
Derek, I've been taking care of you your entire life. I paid for your college, I helped you buy your house, I've been cooking your meals and cleaning your clothes. And this is how you repay me. Mama, that's not fair. We've been good to you. Good to me? I almost laughed. Derek, let me ask you something. When was the last time you called me just to talk? When was the last time you asked how I was doing? When was the last time you treated me like your mother instead of your servant? He didn't answer. And that told me everything I needed to know. Derek, I said, I have recordings of every conversation, every betrayal, every cruel word. And I'm not coming home until you admit what's really been happening. Mama, please, don't do this. The family needs you. The family needs me? I felt tears in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of anger. Derek, The family has been using me for years, and I'm done being used. I hung up the phone and sat there in the quiet hotel room, listening to the snow fall against the window. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free from the constant demands, free from the disrespect, free from the feeling that I was nothing more than a convenience. But I knew this was just the beginning, because what I was about to do would change everything forever. The phone rang again. This time it was Kendra. "Marjorie, this is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. Get back here now and cook dinner for your family." I didn't answer. Instead, I played her a recording of her own voice, talking about putting me in a nursing home. Then I hung up. The next call was from Latoya. "Marjorie, you're being selfish. This is Christmas. You're ruining everything for everyone." I played her a recording too. The one where she called me a burden and said I was too expensive to keep around. Then I hung up. But the call that really got me was from Simone, my own niece, the one I'd always thought was on my side. "And Marjorie, please come home. Everyone's worried about you. We love you." I almost believed her. Almost. But then I remembered the recording I had of her talking to Kendra last week. "She's getting too old to take care of herself," Simone's voice said. "We should start looking into assisted living facilities." I played her that recording. Then I hung up. That's when I realized something. They'd all been plotting against me. Every single one of them. And I had the evidence to prove it. But what they didn't know was I had something else. Something that would make them all wish they'd never crossed me. Comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by family? What would you have done in my situation? At 2 a.m., someone knocked on my door. It wasn't who I expected. It was my dead husband's lawyer. I'd been sitting in that hotel room for hours, going through all the recordings I'd made, listening to every betrayal, every cruel word, every plot against me. I was exhausted, but I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard their voices. Then came the knock. At first, I thought it was Derek. Maybe he'd figured out where I was staying and come to beg me to come home. But when I looked through the peephole, I saw a face I hadn't seen in 8 years. Marcus Johnson, my husband's attorney. I opened the door, and he stepped inside, looking exactly the same as he had the day of my husband's funeral. Tall, distinguished, with kind eyes that had seen too much pain. "Marjorie," he said softly, "I'm sorry to come so late, but I had to see you. I've been trying to reach you for months." Months. I was confused. Why would you be trying to reach me? Marcus sat down in the chair across from me and opened his briefcase. Inside were stacks of papers, legal documents, and what looked like bank statements. "Marjorie, your husband left you more than you know, and your son has been trying to take it all away from you." I felt my heart stop. "What do you mean?" Marcus pulled out a thick folder and handed it to me. "Your husband's will. The real one. Not the one Derek has been showing you." I opened the folder and started reading, and what I found made my blood run cold. My husband had left me everything. The house, his life insurance, his investments, everything. But Derek had been contesting the will for months, claiming I was mentally incompetent and couldn't manage my own affairs. "Derek has been trying to get power of attorney over you," Marcus said. "He's been telling the court that you're confused, that you can't take care of yourself, that you need him to manage your finances." I felt sick. But that's not true. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. "I know that, Marjorie. But Derek has been building a case against you. He's been documenting every time you've been confused or forgetful. He's been collecting statements from Kendra and Latoya about your mental state." I thought about all the times I'd been called confused or forgetful. All the times they'd made me doubt myself. All the times they'd made me feel like I was losing my mind. "They've been gaslighting me," I said softly. Marcus nodded. "Exactly. They've been making you doubt your own sanity so they could take control of your life. He pulled out another document. And here's something else. Derek has been draining your bank accounts. Slowly, so you wouldn't notice. But over the past year, he's taken over $50,000.
$50,000.
I felt dizzy. That was almost all my savings. But how? I asked. I never gave him access to my accounts. Marcus showed me another document. He forged your signature on a power of attorney form. He's been using it to access your money, pay his bills, even buy things for Kendra. I thought about all the times I'd wondered where my money was going. All the times I'd asked Derek about my bank statements, and he'd said everything was fine. All the times he'd made me feel like I was imagining things. They've been stealing from me, I said. Not just stealing, Marcus said. They've been planning to take everything. The house, the life insurance, everything your husband left you. He pulled out one more document. And here's the worst part. They've been planning your accident. I felt my blood run cold. What do you mean? Derek has been researching nursing homes. Expensive ones. The kind that cost $10,000 a month. And he's been planning to use your life insurance to pay for them. I thought about the life insurance policy. The one worth $500,000. The one they thought I didn't know about. But that's not all, Marcus said. Kendra has been funneling your money to her sister Latoya. They've been using it to pay off their debts, buy new cars, even take vacations. I thought about all the times Latoya had shown up with new clothes, new jewelry, new things she couldn't afford. All the times I'd wondered where she was getting the money. They've been using me, I said. Worse than that, Marcus said. They've been planning to get rid of you. Once they had control of your money, they were going to put you in a nursing home and forget about you. I sat there in that hotel room, listening to Marcus explain everything, and I realized something. I wasn't just being used. I was being targeted. They'd been planning this for months, maybe even years. But here's what they don't know, Marcus said. Your husband was smarter than they thought. He left you something else. Something they can never take away. He pulled out one final document. A trust fund. Worth over $1 million. And it's completely separate from everything else. They can't touch it, can't contest it, can't even know about it. I felt tears in my eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Because he knew they'd try to take it from you. He wanted to make sure you had something they could never touch. Marcus stood up and put his hand on my shoulder. Marjorie, you're not alone. You have friends, you have resources, and you have the law on your side. It's time to fight back. I looked at him and nodded. It's time to fight back. But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. Comment below. Have you ever discovered family members were plotting against you? What would you have done? I opened Derek's hidden folder and found documents that made my blood run cold. They'd been planning my accident for 6 months. Marcus left me with a key. Not just any key, but the key to Derek's office. The one place in the house I'd never been allowed to enter. The one place where he kept all his important papers. Marjorie, Marcus had said before he left, if you want to fight back, you need evidence. Real evidence. And I know exactly where to find it. So, at 4 a.m., I drove back to my own house. The house I'd lived in for 30 years. The house I'd raised Derek in. The house that was supposed to be mine. But as I pulled into the driveway, I realized something. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like enemy territory. I used the key Marcus had given me to unlock the front door. The house was dark and quiet, but I could hear voices coming from upstairs. Derek and Kendra were still awake, probably still trying to figure out what to do about me. I crept through the living room, past the Christmas tree that was still decorated but had no presents underneath, past the dining room table that was still set for 20 people who never got their dinner. I made my way to Derek's office, the room that had always been off-limits to me. The door was locked, but Marcus's key worked perfectly. I stepped inside and turned on the light. The room was exactly what I'd expected. Neat, organized, with filing cabinets and a large desk. But what I didn't expect was what I found on that desk. A folder. A thick, manila folder with my name written on it in Derek's handwriting. I opened it. Inside were documents that made my blood run cold. Medical reports, psychiatric evaluations, financial statements, and something that looked like a will. But it wasn't just any will. It was a will that Derek had written for me, declaring me mentally incompetent and naming himself as my guardian. I started reading through the documents, and with each page, I felt sicker and sicker. There were reports from doctors I'd never seen, claiming I had dementia, Alzheimer's, and severe memory loss. There were statements from Kendra and Latoya describing my confusion and forgetfulness. There were financial records showing how much money I was wasting on unnecessary expenses. But the worst part was what I found at the bottom of the folder. A detailed plan, written in Derek's handwriting, titled Marjorie's Care Plan. It outlined everything. How they were going to get me declared mentally incompetent, how they were going to get power of attorney over me, how they were going to put me in a nursing home, and how they were going to take control of all my assets. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the section titled Accident Prevention. It wasn't about preventing accidents. It was about creating them. The plan detailed how they were going to stage an accident that would make it look like I was too confused to live alone. A fall down the stairs, a kitchen fire, a car accident. Something that would make the court believe I needed constant supervision. And then, once I was declared incompetent, they would take everything. The house, the life insurance, the trust fund, everything. I sat there in Derek's office, reading through this nightmare, and I realized something. They weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to destroy my life. But what they didn't know was that I had my own evidence. I had recordings of every conversation, every betrayal, every cruel word. And I had something else they didn't know about. A secret will of my own. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures of every document in that folder. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it and crept back out of the house. As I drove back to the hotel, I thought about everything I'd discovered. The medical reports, the psychiatric evaluations, the care plan, the accident prevention plan. It was all there in black and white, proof that they'd been plotting against me for months. But I also thought about what Marcus had told me, about the trust fund, about the legal resources I had, about the fact that I wasn't alone in this fight. I wasn't just fighting for my money. I was fighting for my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't the confused, forgetful old woman they thought I was. I was Marjorie, and I was about to fight back. But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't going down without a fight. Comment below. Have you ever discovered someone was plotting against you? What would you have done? I found the surveillance tapes they'd been using to monitor me, but what I discovered on them would destroy their entire plan. The next morning, I woke up to a text message from Marcus. It was short and to the point. Check your email. I found something you need to see. I opened my laptop and logged into my email account. There was a message from Marcus with an attachment. A video file. I clicked on it, and what I saw made my blood run cold. It was footage from inside my own house. But it wasn't just any footage. It was footage of Derek installing hidden cameras throughout the house. In the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, even in my bedroom. I watched as Derek carefully positioned each camera, making sure they were hidden but had a clear view of everything. I watched as he tested each one, making sure they were recording properly. And I watched as he smiled, satisfied with his work. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what I heard him say as he was installing the cameras. "This will give us everything we need," he said to someone off camera. "Every time she forgets something, every time she gets confused, every time she makes a mistake, we'll have it all on tape." I felt sick. They'd been watching me, recording me, documenting every moment of my life, waiting for me to make a mistake they could use against me.
But then I realized something.
If they'd been recording me, then I had been recording them too. And I had recordings of every conversation, every plot, every betrayal. I opened my phone and started going through all the recordings I'd made. Hours and hours of conversations, all stored on my phone, all waiting to be used as evidence. I listened to Kendra talking about putting me in a nursing home. I listened to Latoya calling me a burden. I listened to Derek discussing how to get power of attorney over me. I listened to Simone reporting back to Kendra about my confusion. But the recording that really got me was one I'd made just last week. It was Kendra talking to her friend on the phone, and what she said made my blood boil. "Marjorie's getting too expensive to keep around," Kendra's voice said clearly. "She's costing us money every month. We need to figure out how to get her out of the house without looking like the bad guys." I thought about all the money I'd given them over the years, all the meals I'd cooked, all the cleaning I'd done, all the support I'd provided. And they were calling me expensive? But then I found another recording. This one was from last month, when I caught Kendra in my bedroom, going through my jewelry box. "These pearls are worth at least $5,000, Kendra's voice said. "And this diamond ring? Probably 10. If we sell them, we could pay off the credit cards." I thought about all the jewelry that had gone missing over the past year. The pearls my mother had given me, the diamond ring my husband had bought me for our anniversary, the gold necklace that had been in my family for generations. I'd thought I'd misplaced them, but now I knew the truth. They'd been stealing from me. Not just my money, but my memories, my family heirlooms, everything that mattered to me. But I also found something else. Something that would change everything. A recording of Derek talking to his lawyer. A conversation I'd recorded without even knowing it when I'd left my phone in the kitchen while I was cooking. "We need to move fast," Derek's voice said. "She's getting suspicious. If she finds out what we're planning, everything will be ruined." "What about the accident?" the lawyer asked. "We'll stage it next week. A fall down the stairs. Something that will make it look like she's too confused to live alone." I felt my blood run cold. They were planning to hurt me. Not just take my money, but actually hurt me. Stage an accident that could kill me. But what they didn't know was that I had all the evidence. Every conversation, every plot, every betrayal. And I was about to use it against them. I called Marcus. "Marjorie," he said when he answered. "I was just about to call you. I found something else. Something that will change everything." "What is it?" I asked. "The surveillance tapes. The ones Derek has been using to monitor you. I have copies of all of them. And what's on them will destroy their entire case." I felt a surge of hope. "What do you mean?" "Marjorie, they've been recording you for months. But they've also been recording themselves. And what they've recorded will prove that they're the ones who are mentally unstable, not you." I thought about all the recordings I had, all the evidence I'd collected, all the proof that they'd been plotting against me. And I realized something. I wasn't just fighting for my money. I was fighting for my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't going down without a fight. But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't the confused, forgetful old woman they thought I was. I was Marjorie, and I was about to fight back. Comment below, have you ever discovered someone was secretly recording you? What would you have done? I walked into Derek's house unannounced, and what I found there would change everything forever. It was 2 p.m. when I pulled into Derek's driveway. I'd been planning this moment for days, but now that it was here, I felt my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I wasn't just confronting my son. I was confronting the person who'd been plotting to destroy my life. I got out of the car and walked up to the front door. Through the window, I could see Kendra and LaToya sitting in the living room, surrounded by boxes and bags. They were dividing my belongings, like vultures picking over a carcass. I opened the door and stepped inside. The room went silent. Kendra looked up from the jewelry box she was rifling through, her eyes wide with shock. LaToya dropped the silverware she'd been wrapping in newspaper, and Derek, who'd been standing in the corner, turned around and stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. "Mama," he said softly, "what are you doing here?" I looked around the room, taking in the chaos. My jewelry box was open on the coffee table, my silverware was spread out on the floor, and my china was packed in boxes labeled estate sale. "You're dividing my belongings," I said calmly, "before I'm even dead." Kendra stood up, her face flushed with anger. "Marjorie, you can't just walk in here like this. This is our house now." "Your house?" I almost laughed. "Kendra, this house belongs to me, and so does everything in it." Derek stepped forward. "Mama, you don't understand. We're just trying to help you. You're getting confused, and we need to take care of things for you." Confused? I pulled out my phone. "Let me show you what confused looks like." I played them the recording from Derek's office. The one where he was installing hidden cameras throughout the house. The one where he was talking about documenting my confusion and mistakes. Derek's face went white. "Mama, where did you get that?" "From your own surveillance system," I said. "The one you've been using to spy on me for months." I played them another recording. This one was from last week, when Kendra was talking to her friend about how expensive I was to keep around. Kendra's face turned red. "That's not what I meant. You're taking things out of context." Out of context? I played them another recording. This one was from last month, when LaToya was calling me a burden and saying I was too expensive to keep around. LaToya looked away, unable to meet my eyes. But the recording that really got them was the one from Derek's lawyer. The one where they were discussing staging an accident to make me look incompetent. Derek's face went from white to red. "Mama, you don't understand. We were just trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I felt my blood start to boil. "Derek, you were planning to hurt me. Stage an accident that could kill me. How is that protecting me?" Kendra stepped forward. "Marjorie, you're being paranoid. No one wants to hurt you. We all love you." I played them another recording. This one was from last week, when I caught Kendra in my bedroom, going through my jewelry box. "These pearls are worth at least 5,000, Kendra's voice said clearly. "And this diamond ring? Probably 10. If we sell them, we could pay off the credit cards." Kendra's face went white. "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said," I said. "And I have it recorded. Just like I have every other conversation, every other plot, every other betrayal." I looked around the room, taking in the chaos they'd created. My belongings scattered everywhere, my memories packed in boxes, my life reduced to items to be sold. "But here's what you don't know," I said. "I have something else. Something that will change everything." I pulled out a document from my purse. It was a copy of my husband's will, the real one, not the fake one Derek had been showing me. "This house belongs to me," I said. "Everything in it belongs to me. And you have no right to touch any of it." Derek stepped forward. "Mama, that's not true. Dad left everything to me. I have the will right here." He pulled out another document, but I knew it was fake. I'd seen the real will in Marcus's office. Derek, I said, that's not your father's will. That's a forgery. And I have the real one. I showed them the document Marcus had given me, the one that proved everything belonged to me. Derek's face went from red to white. Mama, you don't understand. The court has already ruled on this. The court. I almost laughed. Derek, the court hasn't ruled on anything. You've been lying to me for months, telling me that you had legal authority over my affairs. But you don't. You never did. I looked around the room, taking in the shocked faces of my family. The people who'd been plotting against me for months, who'd been stealing from me, who'd been planning to destroy my life. But here's what you don't know, I said. I'm not just fighting for my money. I'm fighting for my life. And I'm about to show you that I'm not the confused, forgetful old woman you thought I was. I pulled out my phone and started playing recording after recording. Every conversation, every plot, every betrayal. Hours and hours of evidence that would destroy their entire case. Kendra started to cry. Marjorie, please. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just trying to help. Help me? I felt tears in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of anger. Kendra, you've been stealing from me, plotting against me, planning to put me in a nursing home. How is that helping me? Latoya stepped forward. Aunt Marjorie, we love you. We just want what's best for you. Best for me? I played them another recording. This one was from last month, when Latoya was calling me a burden and saying I was too expensive to keep around. Latoya looked away, unable to meet my eyes. But the recording that really got them was the one from Derek's lawyer. The one where they were discussing staging an accident to make me look incompetent. Derek's face went from white to red. Mama, you don't understand. We were just trying to protect you. Protect me? I felt my blood start to boil. Derek, you were planning to hurt me. Stage an accident that could kill me. How is that protecting me? I looked around the room, taking in the shocked faces of my family. The people who'd been plotting against me for months, who'd been stealing from me, who'd been planning to destroy my life. But here's what you don't know, I said. I'm not just fighting for my money. I'm fighting for my life. And I'm about to show you that I'm not the confused, forgetful old woman you thought I was. I pulled out my phone and started playing recording after recording. Every conversation, every plot, every betrayal. Hours and hours of evidence that would destroy their entire case. But what I said next would make them all wish they'd never cross me. Comment below. Have you ever confronted family members who are betraying you? What would you have done? What I said next would make them all wish they'd never cross me, and it would reveal a secret that would destroy them all. I know about the offshore account, I said quietly. The room went dead silent. Kendra dropped the jewelry she was holding. Latoya's face went white. And Derek looked like he was about to pass out. What offshore account? Kendra asked, but her voice was shaking. I pulled out a bank statement from my purse, one that Marcus had given me just that morning. The one in the Cayman Islands. The one with over $200,000 in it. My $200,000. Derek stepped forward, his hands trembling. Mama, I can explain. Explain what? How you've been stealing from me for 3 years. How you've been moving my money to an account I can't access. How you've been planning to disappear with everything I have. I looked at Kendra, whose face had gone from white to green. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I was too stupid, too confused, too old to figure it out? Latoya tried to speak. Aunt Marjorie, we didn't. You didn't what? I cut her off. You didn't know about the account? You didn't help them move the money? You didn't spend $20,000 of it on that new car you're driving. Latoya's mouth fell open. She hadn't expected me to know about the car. But that wasn't all I knew. Marcus had been busy over the past few days, and what he discovered would blow their minds. I also know about the life insurance policies, I said. The ones you took out on me without my knowledge. Derek's face went from white to gray. Mama, that's not. Not what? Not true? Derek, I have copies of the applications. 3 different policies, each worth $500,000. All taken out in the past 6 months, all with you as the beneficiary. I pulled out the documents Marcus had given me. And here's the interesting part. The medical exams? The ones that supposedly showed I was healthy enough for insurance? I never took them. You forged my signature on everything. Kendra started crying. Marjorie, please. We can work this out. We can give you the money back. Give me back my own money? I almost laughed. Kendra, you've stolen over $300,000 from me. You've taken out life insurance policies on me without my knowledge. You've been planning to put me in a nursing home and take everything I have. And you think we can just work this out? But I wasn't done, because what I said next would destroy them completely. I also know about the mortgage, I said. All 3 of them froze. This was the secret they thought I'd never discover. The second mortgage you took out on my house. The one for $400,000. The one you used to pay off your debts, buy your cars, and fund your lifestyle. Derek's legs gave out, and he sat down heavily in a chair. Mama, how did I find out? Because I'm not the confused, forgetful old woman you thought I was. I'm Marjorie, and I've been fighting for my life while you've been planning to destroy it. I looked around the room, taking in their shocked faces. But here's what you don't know. I've been working with Marcus for weeks. We've been gathering evidence, building a case, preparing for this moment. I pulled out my phone and showed them a video. It was footage from their own surveillance cameras, but it wasn't footage of me.
It was footage of them.
Planning, plotting, stealing. Every conversation you've had, every plan you've made, every crime you've committed. It's all recorded, and it's all going to be used against you in court. Kendra fell to her knees. Please, Marjorie. We'll give everything back. We'll make it right. Make it right. I felt tears in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of anger. You've stolen my money, forged my signature, taken out life insurance policies on me, and planned to put me in a nursing home. How exactly do you plan to make that right? But what I said next would change everything forever. Because tomorrow morning, Marcus is filing criminal charges against all of you. Fraud, theft, forgery, conspiracy. And I'm going to make sure you all go to prison for what you've done to me. The room erupted in chaos. Kendra was sobbing, LaToya was begging, and Derek was trying to explain. But I wasn't listening anymore, because I had one more surprise for them. One final revelation that would destroy them completely. Comment below. Have you ever discovered family members were stealing from you? What would you have done? I had one more surprise for them. One final revelation that would destroy them completely. The room was in chaos. Kendra was sobbing on the floor, LaToya was begging for mercy, and Derek was trying to explain away 3 years of betrayal. But I wasn't finished yet. Before you start making excuses, I said, pulling out one final document from my purse, there's something else you need to know. I held up a thick envelope. This arrived at Marcus's office yesterday. From the FBI. All 3 of them froze. The FBI? They hadn't expected that. What do you mean, the FBI? Derek asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I mean, I said, opening the envelope, that your little scheme didn't just involve stealing from me. It involved money laundering, tax evasion, and wire fraud. And the FBI has been investigating you for months. I pulled out the documents and started reading. According to this report, you've been moving money through shell companies, hiding assets from the IRS, and using my stolen money to fund illegal activities. Kendra's face went from white to green. That's not true. We didn't do anything illegal. Really? I pulled out another document. Then explain this. The FBI has traced over $500,000 of my money through 12 different accounts, 3 shell companies, and 2 offshore banks. All in your names. Latoya tried to speak, but I cut her off. And here's the interesting part. The FBI has been watching you for 6 months. They have recordings of every phone call, every email, every financial transaction. They know everything. I looked at Derek, whose face had gone from gray to white. They know about the fake medical exams, the forged signatures, the stolen jewelry, the life insurance fraud. They know about everything. But I wasn't done, because what I said next would destroy them completely. And they know about the murder plot. The room went dead silent. Even Kendra stopped sobbing. What murder plot? Derek asked, but his voice was shaking. The one you've been planning for the past 3 months, I said. The one where you were going to stage my accident and collect the life insurance money. I pulled out another document. According to the FBI report, you've been researching poisons, studying accident patterns, and planning the perfect crime. You were going to kill me and make it look like an accident. Derek's legs gave out, and he collapsed into a chair. Mama, that's not true. We would never hurt you. Never hurt me? I played them another recording. This one was from last month, when Derek was talking to his lawyer about the accident plan. We need to make it look natural, Derek's voice said clearly. A fall down the stairs, maybe. Something that won't raise suspicion. I looked at Kendra, whose face had gone from green to white. And you were going to help him. You were going to provide the alibi, clean up the evidence, and collect the insurance money. Kendra started crying again.
Marjorie, please.
We didn't mean it. We were just talking. Just talking? I pulled out another document. Then explain this. The FBI found receipts for arsenic, sleeping pills, and rope in your house. They found notes about my daily routine, my medication schedule, and my sleeping patterns. They found everything. I looked around the room, taking in their shocked faces. But here's what you don't know. I've been working with the FBI for months. I've been wearing a wire, recording conversations, gathering evidence. I've been building a case against you while you thought you were building a case against me. Derek's face went from white to gray. Mama, you can't do this. We're family. Family? I almost laughed. Derek, family doesn't plot to kill each other. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't betray each other. I pulled out my phone and showed them a video. It was footage from the FBI surveillance, showing them planning, plotting, stealing. Every conversation you've had, every plan you've made, every crime you've committed, it's all recorded, and it's all going to be used against you in court. But what I said next would change everything forever. Because tomorrow morning, the FBI is arresting all of you. Fraud, theft, forgery, conspiracy, attempted murder. And I'm going to make sure you all go to prison for what you've done to me. The room erupted in chaos. Kendra was sobbing uncontrollably, Latoya was begging for mercy, and Derek was trying to explain. But I wasn't listening anymore, because I had one final surprise for them. One last revelation that would destroy them completely. I also know about the children, I said quietly. All 3 of them froze. The children? They hadn't expected that. What about the children? Kendra asked, but her voice was shaking. The ones you've been using to manipulate me, I said. The ones you've been teaching to disrespect me, to ignore me, to treat me like I'm nothing. I pulled out another document. According to the FBI report, you've been brainwashing my grandchildren, teaching them that I'm confused, that I'm dangerous, that they shouldn't trust me. Derek tried to speak, but I cut him off. You've been using my own grandchildren against me, turning them into weapons to destroy me. I looked at Kendra, whose face had gone from white to green. And you were going to use them to get custody of me, to have me declared mentally incompetent and locked away in a nursing home. But I wasn't done, because what I said next would destroy them completely. Because tomorrow morning, the FBI is arresting all of you, and I'm going to make sure you never see my grandchildren again. The room went dead silent. Even Kendra stopped sobbing. What do you mean? Derek asked, but his voice was barely above a whisper. I mean, I said, pulling out one final document, that I've filed for emergency custody of my grandchildren, and the court has granted it. I held up the court order. As of tomorrow morning, my grandchildren will be living with me, and you will never see them again. Derek's face went from gray to white. Mama, you can't do this. There are children. Your children? I almost laughed. Derek, you've been using them to destroy me. You've been teaching them to hate me, to disrespect me, to treat me like I'm nothing. And now you're going to pay for it. I looked around the room, taking in their shocked faces. Because tomorrow morning, the FBI is arresting all of you. And I'm going to make sure you all go to prison for what you've done to me. But what I said next would change everything forever. Because I'm not just fighting for my money. I'm fighting for my life. And I'm about to show you that I'm not the confused, forgetful old woman you thought I was. I'm Marjorie, and I'm about to fight back. Comment below. Have you ever had to fight for custody of your grandchildren? What would you have done? I'm Marjorie, and I'm about to fight back, but what happened next would change everything forever. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing. It was Marcus. Marjorie, he said when I answered. It's time. The FBI is ready to move. I got out of bed and looked out the window. The sun was just rising, casting long shadows across the empty street. Today was the day everything would change. Are you ready? Marcus asked. Ready? I almost laughed. Marcus, I've been ready for this moment for months. I hung up the phone and got dressed. Today I was going to watch my family get arrested for crimes they'd committed against me. Today I was going to see justice served. But first I had one more thing to do. I drove to Derek's house and parked across the street. I wanted to see their faces when the FBI arrived. I wanted to watch them realize that their little scheme was over. At exactly 8 a.m., 3 black SUVs pulled up to the house. 6 FBI agents got out, all wearing bulletproof vests and carrying handcuffs. They walked up to the front door and knocked. I could see Derek through the window, his face white with shock. He opened the door, and the agents stepped inside. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see what was happening. Derek was being read his rights, Kendra was crying, and Latoya was trying to run out the back door. But the agents were ready for that. They had the house surrounded, and they caught Latoya before she could get away. I watched as they were all handcuffed and led out of the house. Derek was crying, Kendra was sobbing, and Latoya was screaming that it was all a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. It was justice. The agents put them in separate cars and drove away. And I sat there in my car, watching the house that had once been my home, and I realized something. I was free. Free from the constant demands, free from the disrespect, free from the feeling that I was nothing more than a convenience, free from the people who had been plotting to destroy my life. But I wasn't done yet, because what I was about to do would change everything forever. I drove to the courthouse and met Marcus in his office. He had a stack of papers on his desk, all related to my case. Marjorie, he said, the FBI has everything they need. Your family is going to prison for a long time. I nodded. Good. But there's something else you need to know, Marcus said. Something that will change everything. He pulled out another document. The court has granted your emergency custody petition. Your grandchildren will be living with you starting today. I felt tears in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of joy. Really? Really, Marcus said. The court found that your family was using the children to manipulate you, and they've granted you full custody. I thought about my grandchildren, the innocent children who had been caught in the middle of this nightmare. The children who had been taught to disrespect me, to ignore me, to treat me like I was nothing. But now they would be safe. Now they would be with me where they belonged. Marcus, I said, what happens next? Next, Marcus said, we go to court. We present our evidence. We prove that your family was plotting against you, and we make sure they never hurt you again. I nodded. Good. But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't going down without a fight. But what I said next would change everything forever. Marcus, I said, I want to see them. I want to look them in the eye and tell them what they've done to me. Marcus looked at me for a long moment. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. I want them to know that I'm not the confused, forgetful old woman they thought I was. I'm Marjorie, and I'm about to fight back. Marcus nodded. Then let's go to the courthouse. It's time for you to face them. I stood up and followed Marcus out of his office. Today was the day everything would change. Today was the day I would finally get justice. But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't going down without a fight. Comment below, have you ever had to face family members who betrayed you in court? What would you have done? I'm Marjorie, and I'm about to fight back, but what happened in that courtroom would change everything forever. The courthouse was packed. News cameras, reporters, and curious onlookers filled every seat. Word had spread about the elderly woman who'd been betrayed by her family, and everyone wanted to see what would happen next. I sat in the front row, dressed in my best suit, holding my grandchildren's hands. They were scared, confused, and looking to me for comfort. But I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. The judge entered the courtroom, and everyone stood. He was an older man with kind eyes and a stern expression. He'd been assigned to this case because of its complexity, and I could tell he'd already read through all the evidence. All rise, the bailiff said. The Honorable Judge William Thompson presiding. The judge sat down and looked around the room. This is a preliminary hearing for the case of State v. Derek, Kendra, and Latoya Johnson. The charges are fraud, theft, forgery, conspiracy, and attempted murder. I looked at my family, sitting in the defendant's box. Derek was pale and shaking, Kendra was crying silently, and Latoya was staring straight ahead, refusing to meet my eyes. Mrs. Johnson, the judge said, looking at me, you are the victim in this case. Would you like to make a statement? I stood up and walked to the witness stand. For the first time in months, I felt strong. I felt powerful. I felt like myself again. Your Honor, I said, my name is Marjorie Johnson. I'm 62 years old, and I've been a widow for 8 years. I raised my son Derek with love and sacrifice, and I welcomed his wife Kendra into our family with open arms. I looked at Derek, whose face was white with shame. But somewhere along the way, I became their target. They saw me as nothing more than a source of money, a burden to be eliminated, a problem to be solved. I pulled out my phone and showed the judge the recordings. Your Honor, I have evidence of every conversation, every plot, every betrayal. I have proof that they've been stealing from me for 3 years, planning to put me in a nursing home, and even plotting to kill me. The judge listened as I played the recordings. Derek's voice discussing the accident plan, Kendra's voice talking about how expensive I was to keep around, Latoya's voice calling me a burden. When I finished, the judge looked at my family. Do you have anything to say for yourselves? Derek stood up, his hands shaking. Your Honor, I can explain. We were just trying to help my mother. She was getting confused, and we thought she needed supervision. Confused? I almost laughed. Derek, I have recordings of you plotting to kill me. How is that helping me? Kendra stood up next. Your Honor, we didn't mean to hurt anyone. We were just trying to protect Marjorie from herself. Protect me? I pulled out another document. Your Honor, they've stolen over $300,000 from me, taken out life insurance policies on me without my knowledge, and planned to stage an accident to collect the money. The judge looked at the evidence, then at my family. This is a serious case. The evidence is overwhelming. You've been plotting against your own family member for years, and now you're trying to claim you were just trying to help. Derek tried to speak, but the judge cut him off. Mr. Johnson, you've been caught on tape discussing plans to kill your own mother. That's not helping. That's attempted murder. The room erupted in gasps. Even the reporters were shocked by what they were hearing. Your Honor, I said, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not the confused, forgetful old woman they thought I was. I'm Marjorie, and I've been fighting for my life while they've been plotting to destroy it. I looked at my grandchildren who were sitting in the front row, watching everything. But I'm not just fighting for myself. I'm fighting for them, for my grandchildren who have been caught in the middle of this nightmare. The judge nodded. Mrs. Johnson, what do you want to see happen here? I looked at my family, sitting in the defendant's box, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Pity.
Not for them, but for what they'd become. Your Honor, I said, I want justice. I want them to pay for what they've done to me. But more than that, I want them to understand that they can't treat people this way. That family doesn't betray family. That love doesn't come with conditions. The judge looked at me for a long moment. Mrs. Johnson, you've shown remarkable strength and courage. You've gathered evidence, built a case, and fought for your rights. That's not the behavior of someone who's confused or incompetent. He looked at my family. The evidence is clear. You've been plotting against your own family member for years, and now you're trying to claim you were just trying to help. That's not helping. That's criminal. The judge made his decision. I'm setting bail at $1 million each. You're to have no contact with Mrs. Johnson or her grandchildren, and you're to surrender your passports immediately. My family was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, and I sat there with my grandchildren, watching them go. For the first time in years, I felt safe. But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't going down without a fight. Comment below, have you ever had to face family members in court? What would you have done? I'm Marjorie, and I'm about to fight back. But what happened next would change everything forever. The courtroom was empty now. The reporters had left, the spectators had gone home, and it was just me, Marcus, and my grandchildren sitting in the quiet room. Marjorie, Marcus said, you did it. You won. I looked at my grandchildren, who were sitting quietly beside me, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Hope.
Marcus. I said, what happens next? Next, Marcus said, we go to trial. We present our evidence. We prove that your family was plotting against you, and we make sure they never hurt you again. I nodded. Good. But I wasn't thinking about the trial. I was thinking about my grandchildren, the innocent children who had been caught in the middle of this nightmare, the children who had been taught to disrespect me, to ignore me, to treat me like I was nothing. But now they were safe. Now they were with me where they belonged. Marcus, I said, I want to go home. I want to take my grandchildren home and start over. Marcus looked at me for a long moment. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. I want them to know that they're safe now, that they're loved, that they're home. Marcus nodded. Then let's go. It's time for you to start your new life. I stood up and took my grandchildren's hands. Come on, babies. Let's go home. We walked out of the courthouse together, and for the first time in years, I felt like a family again. A real family, built on love and trust, not betrayal and greed. But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't going down without a fight. We drove home in silence, my grandchildren sitting quietly in the back seat and me in the front, thinking about everything that had happened. About the betrayal, the theft, the plots, the lies. About everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. When we pulled into the driveway, I saw that the house was exactly as I'd left it. The Christmas decorations were still up, the lights were still on, and everything looked peaceful and quiet. But it wasn't the same house anymore. It was my house now, really mine, and it was filled with love, not betrayal. I got out of the car and walked up to the front door. My grandchildren followed me, and together we went inside. The house was warm and welcoming, and for the first time in years, it felt like home. Not the place where I'd been treated like a servant, but the place where I belonged. Grandma, my granddaughter said, "Are we really home now?" I looked at her, this innocent child who had been caught in the middle of this nightmare, and I felt tears in my eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of joy. "Yes, baby," I said. "We're home now, and we're never going to let anyone hurt us again." I sat down on the couch and pulled my grandchildren close. "Listen to me," I said. "What happened today was important. It showed us that we're strong, that we can fight back, that we don't have to let anyone treat us badly." My grandson looked up at me. "Grandma, are we safe now?" I hugged him tight. "Yes, baby. We're safe now, and we're going to stay safe." But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't going down without a fight. That night, I tucked my grandchildren into bed and sat in the living room, thinking about everything that had happened. About the betrayal, the theft, the plots, the lies. About everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. But I wasn't thinking about the past anymore. I was thinking about the future. About the new life I was going to build with my grandchildren. About the love and trust we were going to share. About the family we were going to become. Because I wasn't just fighting for my money. I was fighting for my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't the confused, forgetful old woman they thought I was. I'm Marjorie, and I'm about to fight back. Comment below, have you ever had to start over after being betrayed by family? What would you have done? I'm Marjorie, and I'm about to fight back, but what happened 6 months later would prove that justice always wins. 6 months had passed since that courtroom showdown. 6 months of rebuilding my life, of healing from the betrayal, of learning to trust again. 6 months of watching my grandchildren grow stronger, happier, and more secure in the knowledge that they were loved. The trial had been brutal. My family had hired expensive lawyers, tried to discredit my evidence, and even attempted to paint me as the villain. But the truth was undeniable. The recordings, the documents, the FBI evidence, it all pointed to one conclusion. They had been plotting against me for years. The jury deliberated for 3 days. 3 days of waiting, wondering, hoping that justice would finally be served. And when the verdict came back, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief.
Guilty.
On all counts. Fraud, theft, forgery, conspiracy, and attempted murder. Derek got 15 years, Kendra got 12, and LaToya got 10. They would all be going to prison for a long time. But that wasn't the end of the story. Because what happened next would change everything forever. The judge awarded me full custody of my grandchildren, plus all the money they had stolen from me. The house was mine, the life insurance policies were canceled, and the offshore accounts were frozen. Everything they had taken from me was being returned. But more than that, I was getting something I'd never had before.
Peace.
I sat in my living room, watching my grandchildren play in the yard, and I realized something. I wasn't just fighting for my money. I was fighting for my life. And I had won. But what I didn't know was that the fight was about to get a lot more dangerous. Because they weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to take my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't going down without a fight. The phone rang. It was Marcus. "Marjorie," he said when I answered. "I have some news. Good news." "What is it?" I asked. "The court has approved your petition for a restraining order. Your family can never contact you or your grandchildren again. And if they try, they'll go back to prison." I felt tears in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of joy. "Really?" "Really," Marcus said. "You're free, Marjorie. Completely free." I hung up the phone and looked out the window at my grandchildren. They were laughing, playing, being children again. For the first time in years, they were safe. But I wasn't done yet, because what I was about to do would change everything forever. I called a meeting with my grandchildren. I wanted them to understand what had happened, why it had happened, and what it meant for our future. "Listen to me," I said, sitting them down on the couch. "What happened to us was wrong. What your parents did was wrong. But we're not going to let it destroy us. We're going to be stronger because of it." My granddaughter looked up at me. "Grandma, are we really safe now?" I hugged her tight. "Yes, baby. We're safe now. And we're going to stay safe." My grandson asked the question I'd been dreading. "Grandma, why did Mommy and Daddy do those things?" I looked at him, this innocent child who had been caught in the middle of this nightmare, and I felt tears in my eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of love. "Baby," I said, "sometimes people do bad things because they're scared or greedy or confused. But that doesn't make it right. And it doesn't mean we have to let them hurt us." I pulled them both close. "What matters is that we're together now, that we love each other, that we're a family, a real family, built on love and trust, not betrayal and greed." That night, I tucked my grandchildren into bed and sat in the living room, thinking about everything that had happened, about the betrayal, the theft, the plots, the lies, about everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. But I wasn't thinking about the past anymore. I was thinking about the future, about the new life I was going to build with my grandchildren, about the love and trust we were going to share, about the family we were going to become, because I wasn't just fighting for my money, I was fighting for my life. And I was about to show them that I wasn't the confused, forgetful old woman they thought I was. I'm Marjorie, and I'm about to fight back. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my grandchildren laughing in the kitchen. They were making breakfast together, something they'd never been allowed to do before. They were being children again. I got out of bed and went to the kitchen. My grandchildren were standing at the stove, cooking pancakes, and they were smiling. Really smiling. For the first time in years, they looked happy. "Good morning, Grandma," my granddaughter said. "We made you breakfast." I sat down at the table and watched them serve me pancakes and orange juice. It was the best breakfast I'd ever had. Thank you, babies, I said. This is perfect. My grandson looked up at me. Grandma, are we really a family now? I felt tears in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of joy. Yes, baby. We're really a family now, and we're going to stay a family forever. Because I wasn't just fighting for my money, I was fighting for my life. And I had won. But what I said next would change everything forever. Listen to me, I said, looking at my grandchildren. What happened to us was wrong, but we're not going to let it destroy us. We're going to be stronger because of it. We're going to love each other more because of it. And we're going to make sure that no one ever hurts us again. I stood up and hugged them both. Because we're not just a family. We're a family that fights back. And we're never going to let anyone treat us badly again. That's when I realized something. I wasn't just fighting for my money. I was fighting for my life. And I had won. But more than that, I had found something I'd never had before. A real family. Built on love, trust, and respect. A family that would never betray each other, never hurt each other, never treat each other like they were nothing. Because I'm Marjorie, and I'm not the confused, forgetful old woman they thought I was. I'm Marjorie, and I'm a fighter. And I'm never going to let anyone hurt me or my family again. The end. Comment below. Have you ever had to fight for your family? What would you have done in my situation?